And well, let me ask you first, for your listeners, how was your experience joining this group of 7 other people, including me? 8 people.
Very good, Scott. I mean, they are very much to recover themselves, to learn, And next time they want to come again. And if I could have your books before that.
I'm not talking about the group in Thailand.
Which group? Yesterday?
Yeah, the group from all over the world that joined each on Zoom. And we went to some pretty far away places.
Maybe because we all have great energy, when we are together, it's like supporting each other, and
that's part of it, but it's really the new ray in the hue that's supporting all of you, and helping you all get out of yourselves and out of your limited thinking and into a much more expansive consciousness, to get you thinking and visualizing and imagining a much bigger universe than you've been kept from knowing about growing up on this planet. That's what that's.
And why 8 of us?
Special people. You were the people who contacted me, every one of you. The rest of the world did not do that. It's not important that they contact me, other than the fact that I can help people fairly quickly begin to remember so much that they've been made to forget. They've been made to forget a great deal, living lives on this earth that they once knew with certainty and confidence. My work is about helping people recover that.
And yesterday, I went to see the series book, right? The series agenda book from Torolian.
Much bigger book than the one that's published on Earth, yeah.
But there is a meaning of that.
The meaning of it is what's revealed in the book on Earth. It has to do with the new ray in the hue and how it's designed to retire evil as an experiment out in the multidimensional creation, particularly the lower dimensions, and here on Earth as well. Something that's never happened before in all of galactic and interdimensional history is underway. That's what Torelian presented to the 5,000 members that make up and meet, representing hundreds and hundreds, even several billion worlds in our galactic environment, in the Milky Way galaxy, that people on Earth don't even know exists out there. Because anything to do with extraterrestrials and the knowledge they exist was classified worldwide under Harry S. Truman, former president of the United States, in 1947, after World War II, under the National Security Act. It became something that none of the governments wanted to tell their people about, and they classified it, covered it up, and they've been working diligently since then to keep a lid on knowledge of it altogether, because of the way they feared things after World War II. They wanted people to become baby boomers and rebuild a destroyed world to feel safe. Because there were beings coming here, meeting in secret with certain leaders here that had technology that could have dominated this world quite overnight had they been allowed to do it. There are races, few of them out there, that would have done that in a heartbeat, and they were prevented from taking over this world. But that doesn't mean they didn't try. So there's one of the reasons why people don't know anything, why they think they don't know nothing. They don't wonder if extraterrestrials exist, how ignorant that is. Can't blame people, but think about it. People on Earth know there's trillions of galaxies out there with billions and billions of stars in each one and billions of planets at each one of them. And they're so arrogant and dumbed down to believe that we're the only ones that exist in all that. People could not be any more suppressed subconsciously who think that way. That's at the bottom of the barrel. Thinking like that means they're not even using their higher faculties to know what they once knew. And this was done to people on Earth without their consent or awareness before they were even born here. That's what's being changed. So that's why my work is coming forward. I came to this planet more than 60 years ago to begin this process with leaders on this world. And that mission to this world was intercepted. I won't go into the whole story. What is going on now is taking place maybe 60 years late, but frankly speaking, the leaders back then weren't ready to help change this world anyway. They were too paranoid and afraid and angry and manipulated in ways they didn't even know was being done to them. That's changing, you know, for hidden government people, classified people. There's a lot of good people in the classified top secret arena that have signed off on and been ordered not to talk about anything they do or know. Scientists, on every level you can imagine. Ambassadors of a type that interact with beings from other worlds in secret bases, kept completely away from the public, in ways that the public wouldn't have a ghost of a chance of getting into and finding out about it anyway. So people live their lives oblivious to what's really going on in the universe. What's underway now has a great deal to do with helping them recover what they once knew how to do, to look into the universe and know things outside of Earth, outside of their body, beyond one dimension, on other worlds, which was common practice for people on this world at one time before they ended up here.
Scott,
that's all a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And for people, you know, like they very much want to recall who they were, but for them it's like not easy, you know.
Doesn't happen overnight, and no one's going to come by and wave a magic wand and just do it to them while they sit there eating a hot dog or watching a movie or eating popcorn, entertaining themselves. It's not going to happen that way. It will never happen that way. But it will happen in ways they don't see coming and they will not expect. Usually the way a person starts to become motivated to get off their duff and actually work as a being again is when they have experiences at night when they're out of their body with friends from other worlds they once knew, and they start getting more comfortable with this again. Sometimes they don't bring back the memory at all. Sometimes they bring back parts of it. But it begins to prepare them to be able to confront and be involved with beings from other worlds, many of them human. Otherwise, people just freak out because they don't know any better. They're ignorant. They don't remember anything they used to know. And they doubt everything about truth that they once knew with confidence. That is the condition of most people on this planet. In governments, classified governments, military, massive people, they're mostly like this. And they think this is normal, but it isn't. This was done to them without their permission or awareness. It was being done to them. And it's being reversed. That's all I can tell you. What matters most for people listening to anything isn't to listen to data and information. It won't do them any good. They need to actually go into things that, say, for instance, that I share, special techniques of working with the primordial first sound behind creation, the hue, and the new ray in it, what it does, and become familiar with it, how to work with it, how to imagine with it, how to have experience with it, how to remember where they go at night, which people call a dream, and bring it back in the morning. How to do it when they're fully awake during the day, which is what we do in these sessions on Zoom and one-on-one. We go places and see things while you're still aware your body's here, but it's in the trance state we call sleep. When you go into a rested state and put all negativity and fear to the side, like on the shelves behind you in your imagination, you know, everything you grew up with, fear for your life, your body, your age, money, everything, the government, nuclear war, whatever it is, put it aside just for the time you go into these exercises. Don't take it with you because you can't. This omnipresent primordial spiritual sound, current, or hue word did not get created on this planet by anyone ever in its entire history. It existed before Earth existed. And from far higher dimensions above what most Buddhists know as the void. It originated way up there. And it brought all this into creation. And we as beings are comprised of this very same underlying energy. It's not made up of protons and neutrons and electrons and atoms. It is energy, but not as it's known by people on Earth yet. They don't remember. And it runs through the entire multidimensional creation, right in the void of space, which is full of radiant energy, by the way. Scientists on Earth know today it's not a vacuum. There's all kinds of energy in it. They just don't know what it is. They can detect it in the CERN Large Hadron Super Collider. It's there. They know it. They proved it. They just don't know what it is or what it does. It baffles them. It's not going to act like other forces in nature they've ever uncovered. It doesn't obey the law of physics. It supersedes it. It creates the way the law of physics works, but isn't vulnerable to it itself. And neither are we as beings. Tell that to most people and they just go, what the heck did he just say? You mean as a being, not the body, I'm free to play in the universe? Well, of course you are. If you can remember how to do it and have some confidence and not be terrorized, you're going to be caught or by a demon or somebody out of body or the devil or any of that nonsense. Because all of that was made up on Earth anyway.
Scott, is it possible, like a person, if she or he doesn't start from reading your series book, okay, but start from practicing you and the
it
exercise?
Will benefit them without reading the book, but the book would help them a great deal understand much about what they've been made to forget. That's why it was written. It isn't at a point yet on this planet where it can be produced in every language. It takes a lot more awareness by millions, hundreds of millions of more people worldwide than know about it yet in order to justify hiring people to do all that work. Interpretation, each book in another language has to be published as a new book with a new cover in that language. And the language inside it has to be interpreted by at least 2 editors who are professional at interpreting English into Thai or any other language. And it's not an inexpensive process at all. Only the few authors that are so phenomenally successful around the world, publishers will spend the money to do that because they know they're going to sell a lot of books in those languages. It's the only reason they would do it, and for no other reason. So it's a practical issue. But when people are very creative, this new book that will be coming out this month that my company will be publishing instead of the publisher in New York, because I'm taking it over, has a new cover. It's going to be slightly larger, like the Emerald Doorway book. The Savior's Agenda has a new cover, a new little important statement on the back, a new ISBN number, and has to be published like another book. It's still the 4th edition, but it'll say on the title page, copyright so-and-so, new cover, and 6x9 new format, right there. And the same for the ebook. But in the ebook, because I understand you can't, it's not easy to get a paper printed book in Thailand, at least in that country. But the ebook that will be coming out will have hyperlinks in the back in the special techniques section that the book has. No page numbers. In the book, it says, go to page 206 and read this paragraph. But in the ebook, it will say, go to this beginning of this sentence that begins with this, click here, and it will take the person right to where they need to read in the book, no matter what ebook reader they have. So they'll be able to use it right away, just like they would if they had the book in front of them. That's something that will come out with the new ebook that is being worked on and is nearly ready as well. Should be out this week.
Next week, right? Most probably.
Yeah, it depends on how quickly the editors and I finalize everything. No hurry, because we want to make sure everything's right. The cover is all designed. It's done. The cover designer's waiting for a template that tells them what the total page count is, because when you go from 404 pages in an 8x5 by 5 by 5 book to a 6 by 9 book, the text gets spread out a little bigger, and there's like, I think, 350 pages now instead of 404. But it's a little bigger book too, which is nice with a new cover. Mm-hmm. The ebook doesn't really change as far as going from 6 to 9 or small like a print book. But the title page and who's publishing it and the ISBN numbers are changing, and the covers will be there when someone gets the ebook. They'll have the front and back cover there at Amazon or wherever they go to get a download of it. And they'll be able to see that, and they'll be able to download that cover as well with their ebook. So they'll have the same thing that a paperback has, but the special section in the back will now work with hyperlinks that go right to the page they need to read, to study. If I say, go read this few paragraphs here, or these 2 pages, before you start this special exercise with the Hue, then they can go right to it and read it and get right into it. That will be a big advantage for people who can't get the book.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make it more friendly, user-friendly. Because in the old version that's still out now, it has the same section in it that was published in the trade paperback, and it says, go to page 206 and read this. Well, an ebook reader, when they download it, are not going to find it on page 206.
Correct.
They have to go to the chapter beginning of it and trace it out and find it. And it just wasn't available when this book was published first in 2013. At least I didn't know of it. So now it's going to function like the paperback, and people won't need to find the page number. It'll just go right to it, right to where they need to start reading, no matter what chapter it's in or where it's located. I've already seen the prototype for it, and it works great. It works wonderfully. So that should be out. Yeah, that should be out this month sometime. And so when they go and look for the Sarah's Agenda at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes or Google Play or any of these things, and when it's distributed to bookstores through Ingram Spark, someone orders it from a Barnes & Noble or bookstore overseas, then Ingram Spark, which has print-on-demand facilities around the world like Amazon does, they distribute to 70% of the world's book distributors to bookstores. My book isn't in bookstores because people, to get shelf space in a bookstore like Barnes & Noble in the United States, one of the biggest ones, the book has to be doing so phenomenally well that it justifies taking up space there. If you want to find a Star Wars book or a Harry Potter book, they've got whole shelves for them allocated for them round the clock, year after year, because they keep selling.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantasy, magic, and far, far away in another galaxy. But it's not about us here. My books are about us here in our galaxy and what's taking place out among the stars and behind the scenes on this planet that people don't yet know is taking place. There's a big difference.
Scott, your special techniques on the back of the book, because I read from ebook, it really works. It does work with me. Amazing with the experience. So I would like, everybody to experience these too,
I would ask them to wait until I can announce to get the ebook that has the hyperlinks in it. It'll be much easier for them. They can use the other one. It's just harder. They have to go to the chapter, and then they have to read English. They don't. They've got to have someone that speaks English and reads English and speaks Thai like you. You could do a whole reading thing where if you knew how, because very top professional people do, where you could be like a reading, a narrated book. Again, to do a narrated book, you got to hire an actor. You got to hire a person that's very eloquent with their speech, a woman or a man, to read the book from cover to cover in a recording and then publish that just like you would a book and make the product available. It's not an inexpensive, easy process to do at all. It requires a professional approach with professional people, and you have to hire a lot of things to get it done. You can't just do it yourself, especially when it comes to distribution, to get it out in the world, because a lot of people have cornered the market on kind of, what's the word? You have like a cartel in a way of controlling distribution points for these books. They get a percentage of all the sales. In fact, the middlemen, like Amazon and everybody else, gets more out of the book than I do as an author. By the time it's printed and shipped and everything else, they get a much bigger share of it. And they're just a distributor. They're not even a publisher. It's weird, but that's how it works. If you want to have a book printed overseas, so you avoid the shipping costs from the United States, like in England or France or Germany, there's print-on-demand facilities there of Amazon. Somebody orders a book in England, it's printed there and shipped locally. There isn't one like that in Thailand yet, anyway. Australia has one. I don't know if New Zealand does. Japan, I think, does. The European countries do. Some South American countries, Canada and the US. But there's still some Asian countries that do not. And it would be a problem because many Asian countries like Japan, most people in Japan only speak Japanese. So unless I publish the book in Japanese, most of them are not going to get it. Because if they downloaded it, it would be in English. Very difficult. So the plans are in the works to do that one day. We're just not ready for that yet. To get it in all these languages and talking books and books for the blind and, Braille and all that kind of thing. Sure, but it's something that has to be done when it can be practically done. Right now, what my challenge is, and that I'm succeeding in doing, is to publish the book under my own publishing company. The Emerald Doorway is already published under that. And there's 2 more that are written. They're going to be published when the time is right. 2 sequels.
We need to read these 2 books too.
They're not published yet. And I'm not going to publish them until the first 2 are far more successful, so more people know about them. Because at that point, when they start to get published, and I republish the Emerald Doorway or republish the series agenda, then we'll be doing it in some other languages, talking book, all that kind of thing. So just to give people an update on that kind of process. They can get the book if they can get it, or in Thailand, or the ebook if they want, and work with you on it, I suppose. Or you could give them some pointers on how you worked with it to get around the fact that the page numbers, when they download an ebook to whatever ebook reader they have, this big or that big or whatever it is, it's going to take those pages and spread them out in their ebook in a little window. There could be 1,000 pages on their ebook reader when the book itself is only 350. So you're not going to find page 206 with a reading I tell you to go to. It's not going to be there. So it doesn't really work. But it was put in the ebook for the convenience of people so they could at least figure it out. But with this new ebook that's being published, they won't have to do that. They'll see, for instance, technique number 9 for chapter 9, the title, and then it'll tell you what to do. And then it'll say, read this selection that starts with Janice Carter saying this, and there'll be a line under it. And when people click on it with their cursor, it goes right to that where they need to read in the book, in the ebook, on any ebook reader. So they'll be able to do that very easily. This month, next couple of weeks, everything goes.
Okay, I would wait. But for some Thai people, they still prefer the real book, to read and to touch. So they prefer to order, even the shipping is expensive, kind of expensive for the shipping.
Get online and go to Amazon.com in the US. Try to plug in how much it costs to ship a book to Thailand from here. Find out what
the price of the book price.
Oh yeah, that's right, because it's not cheap to ship overseas. I would guess that Amazon probably will make more profit without telling people. They'll print it somewhere in Europe, maybe in a country near you where they have a print on demand, and they'll ship it from there. But they may charge you a shipping cost as if it came from the US.
I've tried.
I don't know how honorable they are that way. I can't verify it one way or the other. So, yeah, people can get the book, but for people in Thailand that don't speak English or read it, it's going to be tough. Because they don't read. They don't read it.
Even they don't read English, they would like to have your books, really.
Well, don't ask me for it. I'm not going to buy them and ship them all over and box them up.
We know. I mean, just to tell you how they appreciate your work.
Oh, that's good. Well, I think that they could find, if you guys did a little homework, you could find what country is nearest you that can print on demand and ship them to you. Australia could. Amazon.com there, I think. Certainly Europe or England or anybody else. I don't know who's closest. I think Amazon's in India as well.
I've tried that, but not successful. So
there's no Amazon.com in India?
There is, I think, but to ship days, I don't remember. I did that. I searched for that, but
too expensive or something?
I don't remember how did it came out, but
well, as you know, an ebook is
I think ebook is the best.
Like $9 US. and then they just download it from anywhere in the world. There's no shipping. You just pay the one price and you have the book in any country, as long as you have the internet. The book's a different matter because it has to be put in a box and sent through the mail somewhere. And it has to be printed and then boxed and then shipped and then sent somewhere. That's just the way it is for now.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could offer people more than that, but we're just not in a position to do it just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'd be doing it yesterday. It's coming up. There's the situation this year is going to change dramatically. So there may be a ramping up of many things along that line. I'll let you know as things progress.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get off onto something else other than books and that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's more than just people in Thailand that listen to your show, aren't there?
Yeah, you're right.
So everybody needs to be helped a little bit here if I can. When we talk about the hue, this round hole sound, even somebody without vocal cords who's deaf and blind, or once they in Braille could figure out what it is, because I found out, and I have a close friend who's blind since birth, but he sees color and planets and things and hears everything just fine when he's out of the body here at night. He's not deaf and blind on Earth. On Earth he is, but in other realities he's not. And he's able to read the book through a speaking software on his computer that reads it to him, and then he can visualize it, even though his physical eyes are blind. And so books and things like that can be produced not only in Braille, but talking books for people that cannot see, and for people that cannot hear, they can be done in Braille and things like that. But that's a very elaborate and expensive process to go through all that and distribute books along with everything else. It's easy to do if you have maybe a Harry Potter book and somebody wants to get a talking book, they can probably get one. I think J.K. Rowling publishes her own publishing company, does her own work. She's got enough money and all that to just do all that herself. As I know that her original publisher that she became so successful with, I think only publishes or distributes her ebook now, not the printed books. I think she does that all herself now, out of England. But that's one in a million, you know. Dean Koontz is another very successful sci-fi writer, more series than J.K. Rowling's ever had. Sold more books, 500 million, but they most of them were never made into movies. So most people don't know about him, but he sold as many books. There's a couple of people like this on Earth, but only a handful. Just a couple. To be able to, because people want entertainment. They want to be entertained by things. They want their time when they're bored taken up by movies or whatever books. But if you hadn't noticed, those things are not really helping people wake up. They're not helping people change in a lifetime or know what they don't know now, or recover what they've been made to forget, or find out what's classified, or learn about the truth about the existence of extraterrestrials or anything else. They can see a movie about extraterrestrials and then go home and have a hamburger or hot dog with their family. It's just entertainment to them. Some of the things shown in some movies are actually true, but you'll never know that, because people are conditioned to think of it as entertainment. They don't see between the lines. They don't know how to see truth mixed up equally with misinformation and absolute lies in equal portion. That's the media on this planet. If you search, you can find truth, but you're going to find an equal amount of pressure in theory and speculation and doubt and fear mixed in there. So by the time you're done with it, you just remain in doubt. You're not sure. The person that wants to find truth has to be able to detach themselves from that junk out there long enough to do some work to wake up their own higher perceptions and faculties. What I do is provide the way to go about that safely in a special protected way, even on a world like this, as backward as this planet is. It's pretty backward.
Scott, how come you have found this ray, this hue?
Well, I knew about it. long before I ever incarnated in the lower dimensions. So did you. That doesn't mean you remember it. I had to go through things in this lifetime that I'm certain most people on earth would not have survived in order to recover what certain beings were certain I would never recover. I did it anyway. And in such a way that it provided a path beyond earth amongst beings there and here, so that others could begin to recover this without being interfered with by tyrants from other worlds, or from classified people, or misdirected people, or anything else. When I tell people that I'm not concerned about the destiny of this planet and that there will never be nuclear war here, I'm trying to tell them the truth so that they can stop operating from fear and terror in the future. Because when they're doing that, their imagination, which is a creative faculty that works with this primary hue underlying everything, if you put something into it, it hears you and responds by creating with you what you put into it, good or bad. It doesn't discriminate. It supports all life and lets you just have at it. That's the way the whole universe was for billions, hundreds of billions of years. Good and bad. First good wins, then bad wins, then good wins, then bad wins, then good wins, and on and on and on. Lifetime after lifetime were a waste of time. The Turelian that I introduce in the Saber's Agenda and this book and what it does and the energy behind it has moved a new consciousness of energy into that array, into that hue, that is designed to retire the old way of doing things that keep people from knowing again. The tyrants have used to keep people suppressed and under their control, because the tyrants are more paranoid and terrorized than the people they dominate. They've had things done to them to make them tyrants that you wouldn't want to go through, and they don't remember either. So in order to change a world as backward as this one is, full of people who don't even remember how they got on this planet, and they think that's normal, and it is not normal at all. But they think it is. Most of the 7.5 billion people here, classified or not, think this not knowing of who they are and how to get around the universe is normal. In the classified arena, they know about extraterrestrials, they know about anti-gravity, they know about getting around at least our solar system. But this system's quarantined. They're not going to be allowed to travel out in the stars like Star Trek in the future with radioactive warp cores that can pollute space, because they're illegal out there. There's not an extraterrestrial race out there that's going to allow Earth to take technology or nuclear weapons out there. And the people that are classified here already know that. So they're changing because they realize if they want to play in the universe, they're going to have to change from the way they are. They're not going to be killed or put up against a wall and shot. Tyrants do that kind of thing. But they are going to go through some changes so that they do not want to do what they're doing now any longer. That process is underway. And there's a certain kind of protection that goes along with it, or we wouldn't be able to have this conversation, because this is all run through satellites. And who controls the satellites? You?
No.
Don't you think they would have the power to shut this off if it was such a terrible threat to them? What I do? They don't. They don't call me up. Nobody bothers me. I never get harassed. I don't have my fists up fighting the good fight against the royal families on Earth and the classified people, because it's a complete misdirection of energy, and it traps people that do it. They don't realize it traps them. It keeps them in the positive negative fight, and then tyrants have their way with them. The reason for that is simple. This thing we call imagination is not made up in the brain. There's no motion picture camera and projection screen like a movie theater in here that can see anything like that. It's gray brain cells with little electrical charges going between them. It's for another function. It's not for seeing. Imagination, when people think they're making it up in their brain and they imagine what it's like on another planet, or the beautiful waterfall, or a beautiful woman, or a hummingbird fluttering around their face in a green grassy field with weeping willow trees, something really picturesque and panoramic and beautiful. Beautiful weather, nice air, it's just wonderful, and they're sitting in the grass smiling and all this kind of thing. They think they're making it up here, but they're not. What they are is spherical, what people on earth call soul, people on other worlds call atma, like an atom of the divine or the center behind all things. And it is comprised, this individualization, of exactly the same energy as the supreme being or the source, of what people from other worlds call prime creator, as it is, identical. Same qualities and faculties and characteristics of creation that it has. Identical. On a smaller scale. That's a mighty ocean of pure energy, conscious living energy. And we're an individual drop of the same thing in it. Which means we should be able to move around in it if we're the same energy. And since that energy is not comprised of the law of physics, it's not the God particle. Well, it is to a degree what people in Switzerland found that's behind matter. At least they're beginning to. What they call the God particle really is. But it's not going to obey the laws of physics as they understand it. Or they're never going to understand it the way they're approaching it. It's not going to work with the math they use now. They're going to have to get out of their bodies and go look at it as higher spiritual scientists with beings who understand it if they want to know what that is and how to work with it. There are beings in the universe that travel across star systems and entire galaxies in craft, mostly for the convenience of beings who don't know how to do it. They could also do it in their actual true spherical form and instantly go anywhere. They can also move around in physical ships and physical bodies, but they're not trapped in those bodies. They grew up on worlds where their entire government and society reinforced their children to understand and remember who they were when they were big before they were born in that body. And they retain that growing up. They learn how to do things in science that you would just blow your mind. You can't even comprehend what a 10-year-old on one of these planets can do. Because a normal human being has a photographic memory. On Earth, we're told we use 6 to 10% of our brain. It's just absurd. It's 100% brain developed. How come you only use 6 to 10% of it? Does that make any sense? No. It means you don't have access consciously to use the rest of it. That's all that means. So what happened that made it so that human beings on Earth can't access all of it? See, people aren't looking in the right direction. They're not asking the right questions for the right reason. They're being misdirected to ask all the wrong questions for superficial reasons that will not give them answers, ever. Theory is one of them. Theory is a belief. It means I believe this might be. It isn't I know what that is. It's I believe. That's what people are taught in science and growing up in schools on this planet. So they grow up in doubt and fear. They don't know anything with certainty, especially how to work who they really are. They look in a mirror and think this is who they are. And their imagination's made up here. It isn't. When a person sees something on another planet or another dimension, when they can put their body in a rest state, like a meditation or a contemplation is better because contemplation is more creatively active. In the old days, thousands of years ago, it was good for human beings to still all their fears of their tyrant rulers and Rome and Caesar and all that kind of stuff, and go off somewhere and meditate in a cave and try to get in touch with these higher faculties. And some of them would succeed at turning them on and really know some stuff. And then they found the problem of trying to communicate that to people who were so brainwashed they would kill you if you told them the truth. So they remained very reclusive and taught a few people in secret because the tyrant rulers didn't want anybody being taught any of that, or they'd kill you if they found out. This is the history of this planet. The little known history that people think is history isn't even the history of this planet. It goes back 50 million years since the dinosaurs were made extinct with extraterrestrials coming here. When a person imagines something, they're actually seeing it from one of the many facets of the energy that make up this sphere that they are, what people on Earth call soul. It can't be destroyed by nuclear bombs or broken up by matter being split or any of that. This thing that we really are as individuals has existed since the beginning. It wasn't created by some super god and there's Harry and Bill and Mary and they're my subjects. That's what people believe, but it's not true. We all collectively and the very higher beings that work in the higher dimensions make up what is called the Supreme Being. It functions quite beyond good and evil. And so do we. It means that when a person begins to recover the proper utilization of the creative imagination, they begin to realize that when they're looking out somewhere, imagining it, they're actually seeing it somewhere. The distortion comes from their fears, all the negative emotions that's mixed with it, which twists and distorts clear vision. All negative emotions are artificially created. Here's the kicker. They are not part of normal human beings on other worlds. They are on people on Earth. They think fear and doubt and anger and revenge and all this stuff is part of human existence and love and happiness and joy. This is not true. All negative emotions are artificially created programs, putting people in a subconscious domain that was also artificially created to influence their nervous system and drive them away from finding the truth in terror, afraid of it, especially remembering what happened to them that put them on this earth. They don't want to know that. Too terrible. And yet at some point they have the courage, and as an Atma, they have always had the ability to confront this stuff. Every Atma has always had a domination over any form of negativity, any form of misuse of advanced extraterrestrial technology, anything of a negative nature. But they have been manipulated to forget this and doubt it, to doubt it strongly. Now what happens then is that when people use the imagination, they see they want a good life for themselves and their family and a good world, and they send that out into the world. And then they're terrorized and they think of nuclear war and North Korea and all this stuff that's put out and fed to them. There's never been a nuclear war, but there's always that impending thing always put out to people. So you trust your governments and your military to take care of you. It keeps things kind of balanced for now until people can get over this terror. But in reality, there are beings and technologies at work around this world from the stars that prevent this planet from having nuclear war. And they've done it consistently since the end of World War II, or we would all be dead here already. People need to start waking up to this so they can pull their head out of all that terror and start to really wake up. The imagination is created from the being, the real you, not the body, not the brain. There is a doorway called the pineal or pineal gland in the center of the brain that has rods and cones in it that function to tune into certain frequencies out in the other realities, other planets, other dimensions, parallel dimensions on Earth, higher dimensions, astral, causal, mental, etheric, beyond the void, high up in the upper worlds. All of this people are capable of comprehending, and they have not a clue in to save their life that this is true, that they really have the intelligence. Intelligence is not in the brain. The mind isn't even in the brain. The brain has a function for running the body and all of its complex movements, voice, eyes, ears, everything, picking up certain small frequency of light for the eyes and hearing in the ears and moving it in through the brain so the being can interpret things, who's not physical, who's running that body and has forgotten all about that. So it's not new. And when they look out from this part of who they are out into the universe, and I say, go look at this planet over here. And they prepare their physical form so it's in the trance state we call sleep. Meaning they take a few breaths, they relax, they put their fears and concerns about their life on a shelf in their imagination, then they go into this hue, and I usually begin with a number of raising the tones to raise the vibration up considerably. And then people become serene. The body is sitting in a chair, laying on a bed. It's really in the same state it's in when you put it to bed at night and it goes to sleep, except then you're completely gone. because the pineal gland will secrete melatonin and it creates serotonin to keep the body running on automatic and breathing and the heart and blood pumping while you're out. In contemplation, you're doing this thing that you do when you go to sleep and leave the body, except you're going out and exploring things while you're still aware of the body. It's called bilocation. You can travel on a ship. You can go to the stars. A more advanced method is direct projection, which means 1 minute we're here, aware of our body, being peaceful in a meditative state. And the next instance, you're way up in some other dimension, visiting some place that's enlightening. And when you come back from that experience, you bring the full memory of it back. Not having a real sense of reality that it's taking place is the same problem people have in not bringing back memories of where they go when they're out of their body at night, when they return to the physical body in the morning and wake it up. It's the same subconscious program that interferes with all that. The hue shuts that off.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's designed to do that. It existed before good and evil were made, and there's like a fail-safe. It opens a door through the pineal gland that has a protected channel through it. And then it begins to provide a way for people to begin to explore things they don't even believe they could ever explore while they're a human being on this earth. They think they have to wait till they die, go to some heaven to become enlightened. But that doesn't work, because people take with them when their body dies exactly what they're aware of. No more, no less. So, if you're afraid of the future and in doubt about everything, you take that with you, and it creates the circumstances of your next existence. So instead, if people become aware of who they are that isn't physical before the body dies, and they know how to move around and reawaken stuff, that's the consciousness they're going to take with them when they drop that body. Very different ballgame. That's what we're after. That's what this is about. That's what we're endeavoring to wake up here for people, to get them working in this direction again. My friends and associates from out of town, from other worlds, other planes, master teachers, are involved in this process now. And it is focused, for one part, on this planet. It's being done out there among the stars with tyrant extraterrestrial races right now, but it's also being focused on this earth. So this disclosure everybody's talking about is actually underway in a way that the people that classified everything are not going to be able to prevent or hold on to. They're going to have to get with it and begin to disclose things as well. And they will. And some of them are. More will follow because it's good for them and their own families. It's not going to hurt them or harm them. That won't do.
Okay.
What I want to do for your listeners is go into this queue. All right. What I was saying to everyone is that I'm going to begin this process of sending out the hue on a series of higher tones to open a door, because this is a very telepathic communication that I'm conducting here with friends from out of town, meaning kind, human, and many other beings from other worlds and higher planes who are very much aware of this show and very much aware of who's listening. They're beginning to work with these people, and when they're out of their bodies at night, to help them get over the terror and the fear of knowing such a wide, huge panorama of truth, like understanding the whole multi-dimensional creation and how to get around in it and who lives in it and all that kind of thing. People on Earth have been deprived that, knowing that with any certainty, entirely in their lifetimes, from their parents who couldn't help it, teachers at universities who couldn't help it. I've always pointed out that there are two kinds of scientists on this planet. The classified kind, the very highly classified kind, who have to sign, they'll never talk about it, and the academic PhD kind that teach in universities and colleges who are not classified. And they work with labs and science and work with theory. They try to prove there's life on other planets, or does anti-gravity exist? And yet there's a group of scientists who aren't smarter than them necessarily, that know this stuff exists because they work with it already and have for decades. And they can't tell their peers about it. So you got people putting out to the young people in this earth about theory and speculation and training them as scientists. And unless they're, I don't have to say fortunate enough to be recruited into the classified arena, they're not going to know the real truth about what they're being taught. As beings who are millions of years more advanced work with these things and understand them. That's unfortunate, but it's the way the world has been for the last 65 years or so. That's changing for the better. There are some scientists who have left the classified arena, what people would call whistleblowers, who have talked about this stuff. But they aren't in a position to take what they know or the labs they work in and show it to the public. So it's just a nice story for people. And the people that run those systems can have a lot of money. They can put out whatever PR in the news they want to, what do you call it? Just put out disinformation or ruin the guy's reputation or just make up stuff to keep their arena classified. Because the people that do that said they would never talk about it. And then they do. The problem with joining that arena of people is that then you can't, your life is not your own. It's controlled by people above you in a compartmentalized classified system. And your home has to be, you have to volunteer to have your home bugged. If you work in the defense industry, in a classified arena, you have to do a lot of things people don't understand. To protect the United States, they think, and to protect the world from who knows what. The real issue on this planet isn't about North Korea or China or Russia. It never has been, to the people that really know on this planet, the few that do. It's about extraterrestrials and their involvement here, good and bad, and what they know. Most of the last 65 years has been spent developing technologies to defend this world and be able to defend ourselves against beings who would have taken it over had they been given the opportunity to do so. But it wasn't our militaries that ended up stopping them. It was beings from other worlds who policed them from doing what they would otherwise have done here already. And people on Earth don't even know they exist. That's kind of sad. But what's underway now is to help them recover the ability to know this stuff. That's where the hue comes into this. When I say to people it provides protection, it's just words. I know that. I'm not here to try to convince anybody of anything, but I am here to help them find ways to have their own direct experience with recovering knowing through the hue for themselves. That's why I do this. So I'm going to send out this hue so people can hear it. I don't expect them to really understand what it is that's going on here. But I can tell you that while it's going on, a telepathic, not psychic, it's not from a much higher level. It's a pure form of communication between beings that cannot be distorted by negative and positive things at all. That's the first thing I want to get across to people, which is why I work with telepathy and not anything psychic. I'm not putting anything down that way. But because the positive and negative streams are woven through psychic things, that's unreliable. And one time you're right, next time you're not. I don't work with that stuff. It's a stepping stone, but it's not a place I'd want to end up. I want to go beyond it, which is what I do. And people should, like anything else, it's like driving around in an old Model T at 20 miles an hour, and then you've got over here a Jaguar or a brand new BMW, and you just stay stuck in that old concept instead of getting in the newer vehicle. That's kind of like what this is, between just working with old ways of doing things and ways that really work for billions of beings out in the universe that people on Earth don't even know exist. So when someone goes into the hue, they shouldn't just do it and think like they're being entertained, that some savior or some spiritual master is going to come by, wave a magic wand, and just fix them. Do it to them while they sit there and do nothing. Because that isn't the way benevolent beings work. Only tyrants do things to people, usually without your permission, to fix things the way they want fixed. And that's not for your freedom. An individual being has the capability to set themselves free by rediscovering how to correctly use the creative imagination. Instead of sending it out in two ways that are opposed, terror and fear, love and kindness towards all life, it short circuits their creative potential and grounds it into the earth, and they remain stuck in awareness on this planet. Tyrants know that. So when a person starts to take back those reins and doesn't put out negative stuff anymore, and just puts out the one correct use of the imagination, which is to intentionally create only that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life. Not just all life on earth, that's too small. All life in the entire creation. When a person's intent becomes like that, the energy that comes out through them is whole, and it creates things that are good for all life. They don't get the karma. They don't get the repercussions, the good and the bad. That's why I tell people to drop their fist, stop fighting the reptilians and the tall whites and the grays and the classified people and the Queen of England and all that stuff. Because when they do that, whatever's negative has control of them. Because their consciousness is split, wanting to do the right thing, tell people the truth, but they're angry all the time. And it damages their bodies, and it makes them vulnerable to be manipulated through the internet and phone calls and all that kind of stuff, which does not happen ever around my work on this planet. Why? It's because I don't use the imagination that way, which also means that beings have the ability to protect themselves and become enlightened, even on a planet as backward and negative as this one, if they have the right tools and they know how to do it. That protection is provided for them. Now what's important is that people have the experience for themselves to know whether or not these words are true by their own direct experience. Not mine, theirs. I usually tell people to take several breaths, get in a chair, lay on their back, somewhere comfortable, and then imagine someone you love or someone you have respect for and love in your life, a person, place, or thing, a spiritual master, it could be anything, as long as there's real love there and respect and trust. It generates the right opening of the doorway through the pineal gland. Nothing of a negative nature, nothing of any negative nature can intrude in this when you're doing it. And this is something people need to experience for themselves. This makes all the difference when they have that experience. They begin to understand something's going on here that they didn't expect and that is different than anything you've ever experienced before. Something's happening during this time when it allows them to begin to see and hear things again like they once did. And the circumstances are provided in order to allow them to do this. But it's never forced on anyone. People are encouraged to use their creative imagination with beings who know how to use it, who can help unlock these problems in people, but only when you first create something towards them, giving them permission. They're not tyrants. They will never operate like tyrants. Even if you beg them, they won't. Because they know better. If you want to wake up and recover, you've got to do the work to use your higher faculties and get them these dormant abilities exercised again. Because sometimes most people on earth, they haven't been used, not just this lifetime, but many. See, they don't know how they ended up being on this planet. So they just say, I had a contract, I came here with free will, and I did this, and God told me to, and all this. What? What God would tell people to come to Earth with no memory, dumber than bricks, using 6 to 10% of their brain, they don't know how they got on Earth, and tell them that's good for them. Now get it right. Well, there is no supreme being up there that ever ordered any of that. Tyrants did that. Usually tyrant kings on the planet controlling priests to control the people. And that whole way of doing things did not originate on this planet. It was imported here from the stars by both good and bad extraterrestrial races. Most of them, the vast majority in our galaxy, are benevolent, kind, very highly evolved. There's a few that are highly technologically advanced that are tyrants, and they're being dealt with. The tyrant subconscious drives in their character are being neutralized as we speak. So they don't keep coming back to this planet and messing with people. This is important. It's for their good too. This isn't about killing people and shooting and putting up against a wall for being bad. That won't work. That just creates more repercussions in space-time called karma or maya. It creates the opposite effect. It comes back later to bite the people who use negativity. It's the way it's set up. So we want to stop doing that and get beyond that in our daily lives and in our awareness as a being. So when people take a few breaths and lay on a couch or sit in a chair, imagine someone or something you love and have respect for. And then when you feel that, and it's genuine, you ask this statement out into the universe, aloud or in your consciousness, silently. Safely show me deliberately hidden truth on a grand multi-dimensional scale, and the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it. These words are put together very carefully. They're a telepathic formula. And they only work with constructive, benevolent, uplifting things, period. There's no other motivation behind them, nothing hidden, nothing covert. It only works there. So I'm going to do these tones so people can get a feeling for, on their end, what it's like. And they can join me with their own hue every now and then to feel what it's like to contribute to it. You. You. I don't know your listening audience personally well enough to do what we do in private sessions or in the group Zoom. I would ask them to be above their body or above the planet while they're aware of their physical form. But I don't know what any of them are doing, who's listening, what they're doing, whether they're eating, whether they're talking, what they might be doing. So I've imparted information that is of great value to them. And if they want to explore it further and investigate it, they can. They go to paralleltime.com. PARALLELTIME.com. There's much there that they can explore, including really inspiring videos with beautiful music. Short, some of them are a minute and 20 seconds that really get into this. I know it's difficult for people just in Thailand who just speak Thai. But remember this, when they listen to the music and hear the words, it's telepathic. And on the inside, as a being, they know how to hear and understand all languages. They don't believe that or know that yet, but it's true. So when they just put themselves in the hue and listen, the type of energy that comes through that will begin to help them. And beings that can help them that know how to speak all of Earth's languages, who aren't from Earth, can also be introduced to them in a safe way, in a loving way, when they're out of their bodies at night, or when they're in a meditation or contemplation on Earth, when it's private and quiet and they won't be disturbed. They can work with the hue and begin to have real results. If they're willing to work at it and use their higher faculties, they will get results from this. I'll leave them all with that.
Thank you very much for today.
My pleasure. And I will send you both recordings so you can put them together because of our little interruption at the end. Wi-Fi gibberish. But I think it'll be okay. So I'll say.
Hold on. Can you stop the recording, please?
I can. I will just say goodbye to everybody for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So, I'll just say one other thing too. Pleasant dreams.
Thank you.